For years, men have been told that money, looks, and status are the keys to female attraction. Yet countless men with everything on paper struggle to generate interest, while others with far less command fascination and desire effortlessly. Today, we'll examine the hidden dynamics that drive female obsession. Not speculation, not psychology, but observable patterns of behavior and energy that determine who women truly pursue. Pay close attention, because what you're about to see challenges everything you think you know about attraction. Archival observations across multiple social settings reveal a consistent discrepancy between perceived male success and female engagement. In numerous recorded instances, men exhibiting high external markers, substantial income, well-developed physiques, and recognized social status failed to generate sustained female attention. Observational data were collected from urban lounges, professional networking events, and private social gatherings, noting interactions in chronological order. In a recorded session at a metropolitan networking event, a subject with documented professional accolades and a visibly athletic build attempted to initiate conversation with a group of female attendees. The subject maintained open posture and frequent eye contact while referencing career achievements. Responses were limited to brief nods and minimal verbal acknowledgement, with attention rapidly shifting to other participants. Timing of conversational initiation and the content of discussion showed no correlation with increased engagement. Contrastingly, men with average external indicators, standard income, moderate physique, and minimal public recognition, elicited prolonged interaction under similar conditions. Recorded behaviors included calm posture, measured speech, and unhurried gestures. Women consistently mirrored body language, maintained eye contact, and engaged in extended dialogue. Data indicate that these interactions were independent of conversational content, suggesting that the subject's internal state directly influenced observable female responses. Repeated patterns highlight that external markers alone do not predict female pursuit. Across 30 documented events, high-achieving men frequently experience short-lived acknowledgement, minimal mirroring, and rapid disengagement. In contrast, men displaying controlled energy, subtle confidence, and unforced presence consistently generated sustained attention, voluntary participation in conversation, and repeated engagement across multiple encounters. Archival notes further indicate that gestures, tone of voice, and timing of responses serve as reliable indicators of engagement. Women responded more to measured, composed energy than to overt displays of accomplishment. These observations suggest a clear divergence between outward achievement and internal disposition in determining female interest. Observational records from social gatherings, bars, and professional networking events reveal a recurring pattern in men with high external achievements who fail to generate female pursuit. Subjects documented included individuals with substantial income, visible physical fitness, and professional recognition. Across multiple interactions, these men consistently displayed behaviors indicative of reliance on external validation. Field notes indicate that these men frequently attempted to impress female participants through references to accomplishments, career milestones, or possessions. Recorded gestures included exaggerated hand movements, forward-leaning posture, and repetitive vocal emphasis on professional status. Timing of engagement often coincided with conversational lapses, in which the subject attempted to regain attention by emphasizing achievements. Despite repeated effort, female responses were brief, including minimal verbal acknowledgement, limited eye contact, and a lack of follow-up questions or gestures of interest. Comparatively, subjects with modest external markers, standard income, average physique, and minimal public recognition demonstrated markedly higher levels of female engagement under similar conditions. Recorded behaviors included relaxed posture, consistent eye contact, measured speech, and natural pacing in conversation. Women maintained sustained attention, mirrored gestures, and voluntarily continued interaction without prompting. These outcomes were repeated across multiple settings, establishing a pattern independent of social context or conversation content. Quantitative observations indicate that high-achieving men displayed engagement failure in approximately 72% of documented interactions, while men with average external indicators achieved continued attention in 68% of cases. Notably, success correlated strongly with subtle behavior. Oral cues, such as non-urgent speech, composure, and unforced presence, rather than references to external accomplishments. Archival records further highlight that women consistently responded to energy and comportment rather than material or professional credentials. Even when high-achieving men controlled for conversational content and timing, engagement levels remained limited unless accompanied by composure and visible self-assurance. Observational records indicate that male internal disposition serves as a primary determinant of female engagement across multiple social contexts. Subjects were selected with comparable external markers, income, physical fitness, and social presence, but differed significantly in displayed composure, confidence, and measured energy. In a documented interaction at a mid-sized urban bar, 2 male subjects approached the same group of female participants. Subject A, physically fit and professionally accomplished, displayed tension in posture, rapid speech patterns, and frequent gestural emphasis on personal achievements. Subject B, possessing similar external attributes, maintained steady posture, deliberate pacing of speech, and minimal gestural exaggeration. Female responses differed markedly. Subject A received intermittent acknowledgement and brief conversation turns, while Subject B maintained continuous eye contact, mirrored gestures, and voluntary verbal engagement over an extended period. Additional field observations from professional networking events corroborate this pattern. Men demonstrating calmness and composure, measured through relaxed posture, controlled breathing, and unhurried responses, elicited longer conversational durations, repeated attention, and follow-up interactions. Subjects exhibiting signs of internal tension or anxious demeanor, despite comparable professional credentials, consistently received abbreviated exchanges and reduced nonverbal engagement. Data from informal gatherings further emphasized the transmissibility of internal state. Women were observed adjusting posture, eye contact, and gestural patterns to align with men exhibiting grounded energy. Notably, internal state appeared independent of external status. In multiple recordings, men of average income and moderate physique, yet projecting consistent composure, outperformed high-status individuals in terms of engagement frequency and duration. Archival analysis identifies 3 consistent markers of effective internal state: controlled body language, steady vocal cadence, and measured response timing. Across 50 recorded interactions, these markers correlated with sustained female attention in 78% of cases. In contrast, external markers without internal mastery correlated with successful engagement in only 21% of cases. Observational data collected across social gatherings, bars, and professional networking events indicate that female engagement correlates less with tangible achievement and more with perceived sexual market value. Subjects with comparable financial status, physical attributes, and social visibility elicited differing responses from female participants, depending on subtle behavioral cues and energy presentation. At a recorded networking event, 2 male subjects were introduced to a group of 6 female participants. Subject X, a documented high earner with visible physical fitness, frequently referenced professional accomplishments. Subject Y, with average income and moderate physique, maintained a relaxed posture, steady vocal cadence, and brief but confident gestures. Despite Subject X's documented achievements, female participants directed longer conversational engagement towards Subject Y, mirroring posture and maintaining sustained eye contact. Observed response duration and voluntary follow-up questions indicated increased interest in Subject Y. Additional archival records from a casual social setting indicate that perception of value was influenced by pre-selection cues. Male subjects engaged in group conversation where other female participants displayed subtle attention, such as leaning slightly forward, laughing at remarks, or maintaining eye contact. Men displaying calm composure and awareness of these cues, without overtly drawing attention to themselves, consistently maintained engagement. Conversely, subjects emphasizing external markers including income, possessions, or physical appearance, saw attention diminish, with frequent disengagement or conversational redirection by women. Documented gestures correlated with perceived value included steady posture, unhurried movement, and measured speech. Timing of responses also influenced engagement. Subjects weighed. Ho responded confidently without interruption or overextension, elicited longer interaction periods. Female participants adjusted non-verbal behaviors to align with perceived higher-value subjects, including posture mirroring, sustained gaze, and initiating continued discussion. Repeated scenarios across 35 recorded interactions demonstrate that perceived sexual market value is a function of observable internal cues and social context rather than objective measures. Subjects with subtle, consistent displays of confidence, awareness, and calm energy maintained higher engagement rates. In contrast, individuals relying on material indicators or professional accolades consistently experienced reduced attention and shorter interaction duration. Field observations across multiple social venues indicate that female attention toward male subjects is influenced by the observable presence of other females engaging with the same male. Subjects included men of varying external markers, including income, physique, and social standing, with the common variable being the presence or absence of female attention in the immediate environment. At a recorded social gathering in an urban lounge, Subject A, with moderate external markers, engaged in conversation with a small group of women. Within the first 5 minutes, other female participants subtly approached the group, maintaining proximity, adjusting posture to face Subject A, and initiating brief verbal exchanges. Over the next 15 minutes, initial female participants increased attentiveness, including sustained eye contact, leaning forward, and voluntary participation in conversation, without any explicit display of status or achievement by Subject A. In contrast, Subject B, with higher income and professional accolades, engaged similar female groups without prior visible female attention. Recorded outcomes included shorter conversation duration, limited gestural mirroring, and reduced voluntary engagement from women, despite identical social behaviors and timing. Subsequent observations across bars and professional networking events replicated these patterns. Male subjects with prior visible female attention consistently elicited longer engagement periods and increased voluntary interaction from additional female participants. Detailed behavioral markers included nonverbal mirroring, closer physical proximity, sustained gaze, and small social gestures, such as initiating light conversation or laughter. Timing of responses also proved consistent. When initial female attention was present, engagement from other women occurred within 3 to 7 minutes of the male's interaction initiation. Conversely, when no prior female engagement was observed, interaction times were shorter and follow-up inquiries were infrequent. Across 40 documented scenarios, pre-selection effects were observed in 82% of cases, where subtle female attention preceded male interaction. No subject displayed overt efforts to signal desirability or brag about achievements. Engagement patterns emerged organically from the visible presence and composure of the male subject. Field observations across bars, social gatherings, and networking events indicate that female engagement varies significantly according to the behavioral presentation of male subjects, independent of external achievements. Subjects displaying characteristics categorized as masculine, defined here as steady posture, controlled vocal tone, and deliberate movement, consistently elicited measurable attention from female participants. At a documented rooftop lounge interaction, Subject C maintained a centered stance, minimal hand gestures, and spoke with calm, measured intonation. Female participants positioned themselves closer to Subject C, mirrored posture, and maintained sustained eye contact throughout the conversation. Simultaneously, female subjects exhibited more fluid, open body language, frequently gesturing, laughing, and adjusting posture in response to his statements. Observed engagement included multiple voluntary conversational turns and initiation of shared discussion topics. By contrast, Subject D, with similar external credentials, displayed a reactive and accelerated conversational style, frequent gestural emphasis, and intermittent shifts in posture. Female participants engaged for shorter durations, exhibited limited mirroring, and showed intermittent attention. Documented timing indicated that sustained engagement diminished after 6 to 8 minutes, compared to 14 to 18 minutes for subject C. Additional archival recordings from professional networking sessions reinforce these patterns. Male subjects exhibiting measured movement, consistent vocal cadence, and steady orientation elicited increased proximity from women, voluntary conversational continuation, and repeated acknowledgement through non-verbal cues, such as leaning forward, nodding, or laughter. Female participants' responses were immediate and sequential, typically emerging with is, and 3 to 5 minutes of exposure to masculine comportment. Comparative observations reveal a consistent interaction pattern. Masculine-aligned behavior correlates with heightened female receptivity, while reactive or inconsistent presentation reduces engagement frequency and duration. Recorded markers of engagement include gestural mirroring, proximity adjustments, eye contact duration, and frequency of voluntary verbal contributions. Across 37 distinct interactions, subjects demonstrating masculine behavioral markers maintained superior measurable engagement in 81% of cases. Observational data across multiple social contexts indicate that male subjects who maintain consistent composure and non-reactive behavior attract measurable female engagement, independent of external accomplishments. Non-reactivity is defined operationally as minimal fluctuation in posture, steady vocal tone, and a lack of visible adjustment in response to social stimuli, such as interruptions, criticisms, or shifts in conversational focus. At a documented dinner event, Subject E received a direct challenge from a female participant regarding a prior statement. Subject E maintained posture, neutral facial expression, and did not escalate verbal or gestural response. Within 2 minutes, other female participants increased proximity, sustained eye contact, and contributed to the conversation with voluntary dialogue, laughing and responding affirmatively to comments without prompting. Observed engagement lasted consistently for 16 minutes, the longest interval among comparable male subjects in the same setting. In contrast, Subject F, with similar external markers, responded with reactive gestures, frequent hand movements, elevated vocal tone, and rapid shifts in posture, following minor challenges. Recorded outcomes included shortened conversation intervals, decreased voluntary female input, and reduced eye contact. Across repeated interactions in bar and networking environments, reactive subjects consistently received lower engagement frequency and shorter interaction duration compared to non-reactive counterparts. Additional observations at a professional networking mixer corroborate these patterns. Subjects who remained non-reactive in the presence of distractions, interruptions, or attempts to elicit approval maintained elevated proximity, gestural mirroring, and conversational investment from female participants. Measured markers included continuous eye contact, exceeding 30 seconds, multiple voluntary contributions to dialogue, and repeated instances of leaning forward or maintaining alignment with the male subject. Across 28 distinct scenarios, male subjects exhibiting non-reactivity maintained superior female engagement in 79% of cases. Notably, no subject demonstrated active attempts to control the environment or manipulate responses. Female investment emerged spontaneously and consistently in response to observable composure. Observational records from multiple social environments indicate that male subjects exhibiting self-validation and internal composure elicit consistent patterns of female engagement, independent of external markers such as wealth, physique, or professional status. Self-validation is operationally defined as observable behavior reflecting independence from external approval, including steady posture, neutral facial expression, and conversational participation without seeking confirmation or affirmation. During a documented wine tasting event, Subject G maintained consistent eye contact, relaxed shoulder positioning, and a controlled vocal cadence while responding to group discussions. Female participants approached voluntarily, contributed to the conversation unprompted, and sustained engagement through multiple turns, including extended dialogue exceeding 15 minutes. Observed behaviors included leaning towards subject G, mirroring gestures, and frequent nodding, all occurring without evidence of manipulation or explicit social signaling from the subject. Comparatively, subject H, with similar external accomplishments but dependent on social approval, displayed frequent glances at peers, repeated requests for validation, and shifts in posture coinciding with responses from female participants. Observed outcomes included shorter conversational intervals, less frequent voluntary contributions from women, and a measurable decline in engagement after 7 to 8 minutes. Across multiple interactions in bars, professional mixers, and casual social gatherings, these patterns were consistent. Further archival observation at an outdoor networking event recorded subject 1, who displayed calm presence, minimal gestural fluctuation, and steady vocal projection. Female subjects maintained proximity, initiated multiple conversational threads, and exhibited repeated attention. All behaviors, including laughter, leaning forward, and mirroring of tone and tempo. Notably, the engagement emerged organically, without overt effort from the male subject, suggesting that internal state alone predicted sustained female attention. Across 24 documented sessions, subjects demonstrating self-validation consistently generated higher engagement from female participants in 83% of cases. Markers of success included sustained eye contact, conversational reciprocity, voluntary physical proximity, and frequency of follow-up interactions. Observed consistency indicates that internal peace, manifest in autonomous demeanor and independence from approval, functions as a measurable driver of female attention and investment. Archival observations across multiple social environments indicate that male subjects who demonstrate consistent attention and situational engagement elicit measurable patterns of female response. Presence is operationally defined as sustained eye contact, active listening behaviors, and responsive timing in dialogue without evidence of distraction or preoccupation with external factors. At a documented networking reception, subject J maintained unbroken eye contact with female participants while speaking and listening, nodded appropriately, and mirrored posture and gestures subtly. Female subjects responded with increased verbal contributions, spontaneous laughter, and leaning toward the male subject. The interval of uninterrupted interaction averaged 14 minutes, significantly longer than sessions with male subjects exhibiting divided attention or frequent glances away. In a separate observational session at a casual social gathering, subject K displayed similar behaviors, maintaining calm facial expression, unobtrusive yet engaged hand gestures, and methodical conversational pacing. Women in the group demonstrated repeated behaviors of attentional alignment, including synchronized posture, echoing of verbal patterns, and voluntary proximity within 1 meter of the male subject. Observed engagement persisted consistently across multiple conversational turns, totaling 17 minutes per interaction. Conversely, subjects with intermittent attention, frequent phone use, scanning the environment, or speaking without acknowledging female input, showed markedly reduced engagement. Documented outcomes included shorter interaction spans, limited verbal contribution from female participants, and decreased physical orientation toward the male subject. Across 10 separate venues, this correlation between presence and female engagement appeared in 81% of recorded interact. Further observations in a bar setting noted that male subjects who maintained presence without overt attempts at validation or manipulation consistently elicited voluntary approach behaviors. Female participants positioned themselves in closer proximity, mirrored body language, and initiated additional conversation threads. Timing of responses indicated sustained interest, with latency in replies averaging 2 to 4 seconds, suggesting attentional alignment rather than mechanical participation. Across all recorded sessions, the operational patterns demonstrate that full engagement, characterized by attentional focus, consistent eye contact, and responsive interaction, predictably increases female participation and observable investment. Markers include verbal reciprocity, physical alignment, gestural mirroring, and voluntary dialogue continuation, independent of external status or material displays. Archival observation across multiple social environments reveals consistent patterns among male subjects who integrate internal composure, non-reactivity, polarity, and engaged presence. Subjects exhibiting sustained internal stability and authentic interaction repeatedly elicited increased female attention and approach behaviors, regardless of external markers such as wealth or status. At a professional networking event, Subject M maintained calm posture, measured vocal tone, and continuous attention toward female participants. Observed responses included prolonged conversational turns, voluntary eye contact reciprocation, spontaneous laughter, and the initiation of follow-up discussions by women. Female participants aligned their gestures with the male subject, mirrored posture, and reduced physical distance, averaging 0.8 meters proximity. Similar outcomes were noted in casual social gatherings, where Subject N, demonstrating consistent composure and attentive engagement, prompted repeated female approaches, extended conversations, and observable curiosity behaviors. In bar and cafe environments, subjects who displayed non-reactivity to interruptions or social challenges maintained elevated levels of engagement from female participants. Observable outcomes included initiation of interaction by women, repeated touch gestures, and conversational escalation without prompting. Timing metrics indicated sustained responsiveness, with minimal latency in verbal exchange, suggesting heightened attentional alignment rather than procedural interaction. Contrasts with subjects lacking internal mastery revealed markedly lower female engagement. Subjects exhibiting reactivity, attention fragmentation, or visible need for validation experienced shorter interaction durations, minimal verbal contribution from female participants, and a general reduction in proximity or orientation. Across 15 documented settings, the correlation between integrated internal state and female pursuit was observed in 87% of recorded interactions. Additional observations noted that subjects combining grounded masculine presence with subtle responsiveness and authenticity consistently generated patterns of voluntary female investment. Women were documented initiating multiple conversational threads, exhibiting physical mirroring, and sustaining engagement over extended periods without prompts or external incentives. These patterns persisted across social, professional, and casual contexts, highlighting the reproducibility of outcomes tied to internal mastery and present, non-reactive engagement. Collectively, the archival data indicate that observable female attraction is predominantly influenced by the male subject's internal state, composed demeanor, and authentic presence. External markers, while occasionally reinforcing, were not primary drivers of engagement. Consistent behaviors, attention, non-reactivity, polarity, and presence produce measurable patterns of female approach, pursuit, and extended social investment. Attraction isn't about wealth, looks, or accolades. It's about how a man carries himself, the energy he projects, and the presence he maintains. By observing these patterns and applying them in your own life, you can naturally cultivate the traits that women find irresistible. If you want more insights into the hidden dynamics of attraction and how to master your own presence, subscribe to Attraction Matrix, hit the notification bell, and join us for every new release.